For this problem, we have this chart right here. We are given the waveform with the following regions in time. These are going to be these values. We need to use these values to find the Laplace transform of our waveform. So to do this, we are going to solve each of these individually. So this will be our 1, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once we have all of those, we can combine them together. We need to solve them individually because if we look at our waveform, we have this region over here, which is negative infinity to 0, which is 1. And then for 2, we have from 0 to 4. And then if we have our third one, is going to be from 4 to 12. And then our fourth one is from 12 to 16. And then our last one is just anything greater than 16. So when we look at this, we have to solve them in different parts. And that is because each of these values have different slopes. So in solving this, that is why we have to separate them first. It's also easier to separate them first. So to start this off, I'm going to solve for the first part. If we look at the first part, everything just zeroes out. Also, we will be using these equations to solve for our problem. We want just the slope and these values here. We don't care about the b in this problem right now. So if we were to do 1, if we plug in the slope, we would say that our f of t is equal to a 0t, and then in here we have u and then t minus 0. And obviously this will all equal to 0. So this will be our value. For number 2, we have a little bit more to do. So f of t is equal to, we have our slope as 4t, so we're going to plug 4t into here, and then we are going to have our u t minus 0, and then minus u t minus 4. And the second u is not included in this equation up here, but if we are adding another point, we have to subtract it, and then we're going to have u t minus that value. That's just how we would do it. So from here, I'm going to distribute some things just so it's easier to see. We are going to have a 4t times u times t. And then we're going to have a 4t u t minus 4. So that is going to be our equation. Now for part 3, we are going to have our f of t equal to the slope only. We're given negative 4t plus 32. The 32 is this b value. We don't want that, so we're just going to have a negative 4t, and then we're going to have a bracket u t minus 4, and then we're going to have minus u, and then t minus 12. So this is our equation. Again, we're just using this formula right here. We're only using this one now. We're going to use this one a little bit later. So from here, we're going to have a negative 4t, and then u t minus 4, and then we are going to have a plus 4t u t minus 12, and that's because the negatives make it positive. For 4, we're going to have that our f of t is equal to our 4t. We're omitting the negative 64, and that's because we don't need the b here. So 4t, and then we are going to have u t minus 12, and then we're going to have a minus u t minus 16, and then this, if we combine some things, it's going to be 4t u t minus 12 minus 4u t minus 16. So those are our equations so far. If we look at 5, we can see that our slope is just going to be 0. I'll write it anyways. We're going to have a 0t, and then we have this value, and then we're going to have u t minus 16. And even though we have this u t minus 16, the 0 is going to factor in and make everything 0, so this is just going to be 0. Now we are going to look at the second part. So that was kind of the first part of the problem. Now we're looking at all of these. We're going to combine our values together. So this is going to give us a 4t ut. We have these two values that are the same, so we're going to add them together. Instead of a plus, we'll have a negative because it is a minus for both of them. We're going to have minus 8t u t minus 4. And then if we look at the next set, these two are the same. So we are going to have a plus 8t u t minus 12. And then lastly, we're just going to have a minus 4u, and I did not factor in the 16 here, there should be a 16 in this one. So, or there should be a t in this one. So let's add a t right here. And that's going to be 4u t minus 16. So this is our current equation. This is our complete combined f of t. Now we want the Laplace transform for this. So to get that, we are going to have to take the Laplace transform of both sides. If we do this to the left side, it's going to give us an f of s. So we're going to have f of s, and this is equal to. And now we got to take it to the next side. Well, we can see that all of our values here have a t right here, right here, right here, and right here. And we know the Laplace transform of a t is just going to be 1 over s squared. So we're going to look at our chart, and we're going to see 1 over s squared. This chart can be found in the notes linked below the like button, but 1 over s squared is what we're going to use. So we can just factor it out since all of these have it. We're going to have 1 over s squared. We can also factor out a 4, since all of these are divisible by 4. We're going to have 4 divided by s squared, and now we can rewrite our values. So if we factored out 4, we are just going to have a 1. Now this is where this equation comes in. For each of these, we have t minus or plus some value. In this first one, it's going to be t plus 0. And so when we solve for this, we're just going to say that our t is equal to 4, and that our t is equal to 12, and that our t is equal to 16. When we solve for all of these, that's what our t is going to be equal for these ones individually. Now we are going to use, again, this equation and solve for it. So our f of t is going to be this value right here, this -8. We don't need the t because, again, we factored it out with the Laplace, and we're not going to use the u. So when we transfer this over, for the first value, we are just going to have a 1, and that is because we factored out the 4. For this next value, we're going to have a -2 because we factored out the 4. And then we are not going to use the u. We have this t minus 4 right here. So this is basically going to be t is equal to 4. And so when we look at this equation, we're looking at this part. We are going to have a e minus s 4, because t is 4. So that is going to be how we write that. For the next one, we're going to have a plus 2, again, because the 4 is factored out. If we factor it in, it's going to be 8. And then we are going to have our e minus s, and then for here we have t is equal to 12, and so this is going to be a minus s 12. Next, if we factor out the 4, we're just going to have a minus 1 in here, so we're just going to have a minus e. We have a t is equal to 16 here, because t negative 16, move it over, t is equal to 16, so minus e minus s up top, and then we're going to have our 16. So that is going to be the Laplace transform of our equation. This is the answer here, and we got that from splitting all of these different parts of the waveform up. We solved for them individually right here using this equation, and then we combined them together right here. We then took the Laplace transform of both sides to get f of s, and then we manipulated this, or we actually manipulated this using this equation, and we omitted the u's to get this equation, which was our final answer. So if we look at the problem, we can see that the answer is C. And that is how we would go about solving for this problem.